Gus also likes to ask other questions like, can you give me or can you send me? You know, these are questions that Gus will ask typically when he's done with the first sales conversation. You know, so now he's got enough data to go ahead and prepare the 1003 and price it out, structure it, put a couple options together, because Gus is that enthusiastic dude, right? And so Gus would be like, you know what, can you give me 30 minutes? I'll go ahead and put the information together and call you right back. Right? But Gus also likes to ask those questions after he tries to sell the deal, because Gus just loves to juke data, just overload data, give more information than necessary. He thinks he closed them because the other person said, let me think about it. And then Gus will be like, well, can you send me these documents, or can you send me your W-2s, your 1003s? That's a question you need to avoid. Whereas Geraldo, man, Geraldo's smooth. Again, he's just making statements. So instead of saying something like, hey, can you give me or can you send me at the end of the conversation, Geraldo's more like, all right, so what I'm going to do is put together the information. I'll go ahead and send it out to your email, your iCloud account, so that you could see everything in writing. If I run across any hiccups, I'll give you a call back before I send it out, right? And so it's very non-threatening. There's no time, right? So it's going to be based on Geraldo's time, giving the impression to Jim that Geraldo's got things to do. Geraldo's making moves. Geraldo's got another cool watch to look at. Does that make sense? So Geraldo's doing the thing. And so Geraldo isn't asking like, hey, can you give me 30 minutes to put information together? Because Geraldo is more methodical. He's more strategic. And so Geraldo understands that through the conversation that Jim is not going to be in a position in 30 minutes. So why ask? Jim is going to still be at work inside his cubicle, hating life, getting 9 different alerts and distractions, and then also have a deadline to get into that meeting. So Geraldo's a little bit more conservative with his time, but he's more empathetic towards Jim. And he knows that Jim's not going to be in a position to really absorb the message within his sales pitch. So you know what Geraldo does? Geraldo actually sets it up. He's proactive. So he says, you know what I'm going to do, Jim? I'm going to put the information together and I'll have it out to your inbox by the time you get home. If I run across any hiccups, I'll go ahead and give you a call before I release it. And so again, Geraldo's building up the curiosity, right? He's building up the curiosity, but more importantly, he's removing the guard in case Jim sees his caller ID number again, or his number on the caller ID. Because now Jim's like, oh, Geraldo needs me. Geraldo's smooth as Geraldo needs me. I bet he probably has some questions. Let me go and answer this phone real quick. Man, Geraldo probably ran into some hiccups. Does that make sense? So he's a little bit more premeditated. But Geraldo did it all for a reason. Geraldo did it because he knew that Jim was not going to be at home with Sally. And Sally also plays a role within the financial commitments. And Sally just happens to be the one that is most glued to the numbers. She's the one directly tied to the numbers because it's Sally who sends out the bills, not Jim. Jim will ultimately end up having to repeat everything that Geraldo would say to Jim, and Geraldo understands that Jim is not as smooth as him. Come on, guys, look at Geraldo. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand the difference between like, can you give me or can you send me versus I'm going to? So you're assuming it, you're driving it. If you understand the tonality of Geraldo's statements, it's consistently moving forward. There's never any breaks where I can put myself down this path of just dead end roads. Whereas Gus is all about that dead end road. Look at Gus's face. He's all about that dead end road. Whereas Geraldo, he knows exactly what he's doing. This dude's James Bond, bro. Like, he's smooth.